We've been gearing up for Aligned 17, which is a virtual conference dedicated to sales and marketing alignment. It's happening May 22nd through the 26th, and we wanted to do something special for B2B Growth listeners. Leading up to the event, we'll be giving you early access to some of the Aligned 17 sessions. Today's episode is exactly that. So if you like today's interview, head over to aligned17.com and sign up to access every session of the event. We've got an incredible lineup of speakers, including Gary Vaynerchuk, Jill Conrath, Tony Hughes, Tucker Max, and Trish Bertuzzi, along with dozens of other B2B sales and marketing experts. So go to aligned17.com and sign up today. You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm James Carberry.
And I'm Jonathan Green.
Let's get into the show. Welcome back. We are here today with Carlos Hidalgo. He is the founder and CEO of VisumCx. He's also the author of Driving Demand. Carlos, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
So, Carlos, I'm really excited to chat with you. We're going to be obviously talking about sales and marketing alignment, but you've got some very specific things that we were talking about offline that I think are going to be extremely helpful for the folks listening to this that are looking to find alignment between marketing and sales. And so before we get into that, though, I'd love for you to explain, what is VisumCx? What are you guys all about?
Yeah, we work with organizations to help them design and deliver exceptional customer experience. When you think about 76% of CEOs are saying customer experience is one of our top priorities, and only 25% of B2B organizations are succeeding on that from their own admission. There's a breakdown between a priority and the execution of that priority. So we work with organizations both internally to enable, equip, and empower their organizations to deliver that, and then the execution of that from brand, demand generation, and post after somebody buys something. How do you enable, equip, and empower your employees to deliver that at every customer touch point? And ultimately, what we want to do is go from brand engagement to customer advocacy.
Got it. I love it. So as we were talking offline, Carlos, you had said that there's a myth that you hear a lot that is around sales being the customer of marketing. Talk to us about why you believe that's a myth.
Yeah, I think, that's a lot of the legacy that we have brought over since the beginning of time, really. As I mentioned to you, when I started my career 20 plus years ago, our whole goal from a marketing perspective was either in the field putting on an event for sales or getting sales all of the information that they needed to engage with the customers and engage with the buyers. When you think about the documented buyer's journey today by CEB, Forrester, and others that show so much of that buyer's journey is done or self-driven by the buyer because of things like the internet and social media and our ability to network, that whole paradigm has changed. And so it's no longer sales that is marketing's customer. The customer is the customer. And both marketing and sales have to align around that customer, how they're interacting with your brand, how they're purchasing your product, how they're engaging with you post-sale. And so there is this legacy culture and this legacy myth still a lot of organizations that, hey, we are sales driven. Well, if CEB is right and their research shows 57% of that buyer's journey is complete before B2B buyers engage with a vendor, then that means sales is really in that 43%. And there's ways they can be involved in that 57%, but that puts marketing, it gives marketing so much more of a mandate in the organization to truly engage, attract, and then ultimately nurture, and then enable sales to convert that buyer.
And so you mentioned sales can obviously play a part in that big percentage. Mm-hmm. What are some ways that you found where healthy organizations have allowed sales to influence that?
I think first and foremost, it's a collaboration with marketing to determine who are our customers, how are they engaging with us, how are they interacting with our brand, how are they purchasing our product. They have to have that common view and that common understanding. And it's no longer just one individual. I still hear that a lot. Well, we're going after the decision maker. Well, again, back to CEB, there's almost in any average B2B sale, there's as many as 7 different stakeholders, or 6.8 technically, but let's round up and say 7. So we have to message to those. So I think that collaboration with marketing and finding that common view of the buyer. Secondly, if they want to be involved, what they need to be able to do is be part of that conversation. Rather than trying to immediately sell something, help your customers solve their problem, solve their challenge. And so I believe the best salespeople can talk about their industry, can talk about the trends in their industry, can talk about problems they're seeing in their customers without ever mentioning their brand or their product. They should really aspire to be subject matter experts, because if I can help you qualify and sometimes quantify your problem and help you see it in a bigger way, then the likelihood of you buying from me, even if I am more expensive, is going to increase dramatically.
That makes perfect sense. So you talked about this idea of having a common view of the customer, and that's really fundamental to all of the other points that we're going to be talking about today, is having that common view of the customer. Establishing that common view, Carlos, what does that look like, kind of from an initial standpoint, as well as how do you maintain that ongoing kind of common view of the same customer that you're both sales and marketing are trying to serve?
Well, I think first and foremost, you got to go out and talk to the customers. A lot of the persona work that I see being done today, when you ask, well, how's that done? Well, marketing and sales got together and we kind of put together this approach. They don't really focus on how customers engage at the brand level all the way through to that customer advocacy stage. And it's a very internal view. So I do believe there's some qualitative things that we have to do to go out and speak to our customers and ask them, how are you engaging with us? What problems were you trying to solve when you started to engage with our brand, or when you started to purchase a product or a service similar to what we offer? How do you engage with us after? What kind of channels do you use to collect information? What kind of content do you prefer? Do you prefer short snippet videos, or do you prefer white papers? We also have to understand how in the demand generation cycle that buying committee works. We have to understand the tension points. We have to understand their differences and really understand how we can use content and a digital experience, if that's necessary, to bring that committee together and help them champion a solution to a common problem. Now, how do we keep up on that? That's the challenge, because just doing interviews and looking at data and doing research into your space, that is a point in time. So if something dramatically happens, and the example I use is healthcare. I had a healthcare client back when the Affordable Care Act was passed, and that completely turned healthcare buying on its head. Well, what happens now if it's repealed with the new administration? So now I have to go back and do all that work over again. I have to do the research. I have to do the interviewing. I have to do all that, look into the data and the behavioral. And there are some new platforms that are coming out, which are really customer intelligence platforms that help us in a real time using unstructured data, taking a look at unstructured data, taking a look at and using machine learning, where I can actually take a virtually real-time view to see what changes or what impacts my buyers are having through that journey, and start to take a look so I can actually adapt virtually in real time. And so those are some of the newer platforms that are coming out, which is really exciting and does kind of shift the way a lot of organizations, either from the agency side or more advanced organizations, have been doing persona work and buyer journey mapping today.
So beyond having the common view of the customer, if we follow your advice, Carlos, and we're talking to customers and we're asking those questions, and this next piece I want to talk about is having sales and marketing have to have a common process to attract and convert that buyer. Talk to us about what this means to have that common process.
Yeah, I think once we understand that customer journey and how they're interacting with us, then we can start to align a content architecture to that, where first we're just trying to get them to trust our brand, to build some affinity for our brand, where I can say, all right, I'm going to move to the next step. I like what they're saying. They're helping me do my job better. Not every customer is in a buying process. So we have to understand that. And so if I download a piece of content because it's interesting to me and it's informative and it's going to help me to do my job better. The last thing I want is a phone call from a sales rep saying, hey, do you have 15 minutes for a demo or a conversation? I'm just trying to stay informed myself. And so I think sales and marketing working together to say, this is the content architecture that we need to develop and start to implement across the full end-to-end customer journey. Again, brand engagement through the buying cycle, customer support, service and delivery, and then ultimately customer advocacy. It's not marketing saying, hey, we're going to create a bunch of content and then tell sales what we've done. It's those two working together. It's marketing driven, but sales informed as well.
Okay. So after having, that common process to both attract and convert, sounds like primarily being done through kind of the content infrastructure that you work together to figure out. Then you talked about having a common set of KPIs. Talk to us about that.
I think there's a lot of, when I work with marketing teams, I still see a lot of vanity metrics, clicks and opens. Actually, right before this call, I saw a post on LinkedIn as, hey, is it worth posting on LinkedIn anymore? I'm seeing a decrease in likes and shares. If that's your goal, well, then, don't post on LinkedIn. The real question is, are your customers on LinkedIn? So if they are, then continue to post there. But I think what we have to do is saying, what is our goal? So if our goal is to deliver customer experience and content or a digital engagement is one of the ways we do that, then we have to set up the right KPIs. So things like NPS score. Are we moving people who are detractors up to promoters? In the demand gen cycle, what is the propensity of our content or the likelihood that our content is going to move somebody to the next stage of their buyer's journey? What is the likelihood that content is going to help close a deal for us or influence a deal from a nurture perspective and ultimately to a sales closure perspective? So if we have those common metrics and then looking at those metrics along a funnel, and I'm not saying the funnel is the buyer's journey by any means, but we put together some sort of cadence and process that says, here we know we have an inquiry, and then what happens between inquiry and marketing qualified lead, start to measure those conversions, and then ultimately start to say, what is the revenue we need to drive from these programs that we're going to implement? And both marketing and sales are measuring against that number. That drives huge alignment because how many times have you heard sales saying, well, marketing doesn't get it, and marketing rolling their eyes and saying sales is so coin operated? Yeah. We should both be coin operated because that's what we're there for, is to drive more revenue for the organization.
So this last one that we're going to talk about, Carlos, is around incentive structure, really having a common incentive structure across both organizations. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think, again, the adage of market or sales is so coin operated, that's a really good thing. I want my salespeople really coin operated. I also want my marketing people coin operated. So I do believe that both marketing and sales should be incented, and part of their compensation structure should be based on their performance. And it's not, you can't do that and then have marketing saying, well, we delivered all these leads. Well, then you have to ask the question, what's a lead? Until they sit down and define the service level agreements and that process by which leads are going to be passed, and then the definition of what we mean when we say a qualified lead or a qualified opportunity, we can't put an incentive structure in place because then everybody's going to start arguing, and that causes more misalignment. So I do believe marketing should be incented on sales accepted leads, on contribution to pipeline, and contribution to revenue. Ultimately, that's the ultimate goal, just like sales is. Sales doesn't get paid unless they close something. Marketing shouldn't get paid as part of their compensation. I'm not saying all, but part of their compensation, unless they're generating enough qualified opportunities that sales can actually close.
And so Carlos, for the folks out there that would say, there's obvious benefit in activity that is, I guess, more concentrated around kind of brand building. Are there ways to take those types of activities and still make sure that they're aligned with the more coin-operated mindset that you talked about?
Well, and I think that's why we have to take a look at the full end-to-end customer journey, not just the buying journey, because the buying journey happens at that trigger event, or what Google calls the 0 moment of truth, and then it ends when somebody buys something. And so when we take a look at that full customer journey, then we get to see what is the impact of brand, our brand engagement, or our brand experience via content or digital channels, what have you. Does that move people into, or once they start that, have that trigger event, do they continue to engage with us across that buyer's journey? How do customers, after they have purchased, what is our retention? What is our cross-sell and our upsell? And so I do believe taking a holistic look at the customer journey, not just a piece of it, is going to really help organizations kind of daisy chain some of those KPIs together, as well as have a broader content architecture with a common thread that goes from brand and audience engagement all the way through to advocacy.
Carlos, this has been fantastic. If there's somebody who want to stay connected with you, they maybe want to dive deeper on this, what's the best way for them to connect with you? And then if they want to engage with VisumCx as well, how can they do that as also?
Yeah, they can visit our site at VisumCx. It's VisumCx.com. You can email me at carlos@VisumCx.com. Then you can also find me at Twitter at CA Hidalgo, Hidalgo.
Awesome. And Carlos, I'm assuming your book is on Amazon and pretty much anywhere that you can find books.
It is on Amazon and a few other places. Absolutely.
All right. So just search Driving Demand and you will see Carlos's book. Definitely check that out. Carlos, thank you so much for your time today. This has been incredible.
Thanks, James. I appreciate it.
To ensure that you never miss an episode of the B2B Growth Show, subscribe to the show in iTunes or your favorite podcast player. This guarantees that every episode will get delivered directly to your device.
If you'd like to connect with B2B executives from all over the world, make sure to join our private Facebook community. There are some incredible conversations happening inside this group. To join, visit b2bgrowthshow.com/FB.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.